We actually had a little bit of a blast here because we were thinking about how Americans would pronounce Sacher Torte. Actually, Sacher Torte is not a German recipe, it's Austrian, and it goes back to the year 1832. That was the first time it was baked. An earl or something, he wanted his cook to bake a special dessert for his guests, but unfortunately that cook got ill, so his apprentice had to bake something, and he came up with this cake and the guests really liked it. But that was the end of the story for many, many years until he later started his own place, his own bakery, and started to bake this cake again. And this is called after his names. I think he was Edward Sacher. And yeah, ever since then, this cake has become famous, and it is baked in that original bakery in Vienna, and also at the Sacher Hotel. There has been some lawsuit about that, and you know, la-di-la-di-la-di. However, the cake is still very delicious, and I will not make the traditional cake today because Valentine's Day is coming up, and I wanted to make a Valentine's special, and so I will make it in a little heart shape, kind of sweet, and yeah, let's just see how that goes. I've never done that before, so wish me luck, and let's see how we can do that. So I start with the butter, and the next thing that I add is some confectioner's sugar, and you will find the exact ingredient amount on my blog. I will also add some vanilla, and I came across this product. It's a vanilla bean paste, and I'm totally in love with it. So I'll take a teaspoon of it to add to my little batter, and I will start also with adding 1 egg yolk. I have 6 eggs here, and I will not add them all at once. I will add them little by little. So I start with some mixing here. I start very carefully because of course the confectioner's sugar is dusting everything. Okay, and now I will add the egg yolks. Before I started all this, I actually melted some chocolate over hot water. So that's how you want to do it. You never melt chocolate like directly in the pot. You always use a pot of water underneath. And you should be careful not to heat the chocolate too much. It might lose some of its flavor. And I now add this chocolate to my butter mix. I really like melted chocolate, it looks so good. And then I will continue to mix it a little bit so it's all incorporated. Now I will use a different bowl and also the egg white. And I will use my hand mixer since the other one is already occupied. And I will now beat the egg whites, and I will add some sugar during that. Okay, so you can see the egg white is keeping its shape, and that's where I want it to be. Just discovered a little bit in there. Okay, and let's move that aside. Now I want to add this to my chocolate batter. Let me move this a little more to the center. Okay. Now I put this on top of the chocolate batter. Okay, and then I use my flour, and I already put it through a sieve, and I will now carefully put it on top. Okay, and I start mixing this in, not with the machine, but with a spoon or this kind of tool, a spatula. I carefully mix this together. And I think in the original recipe they had 12 eggs. I think that's a little bit too much. So there are many different recipes out there for the Sacher Torte, and there's some crazy ones out there. I really was searching for one that is as close to the original recipe as possible, and this is like a handwritten recipe from one of the heirs of the original Eduard Sacher. So I guess it is pretty close to what they are baking there. Might have changed it. So there was some kind of a debate if the marmalade, so that they put some jam on the cake, but some also use a knife and cut the cake in halves and make an extra layer with some of the marmalade or the jam. And so there has been some debate about which is right, and apparently the original cake has only the jam on the top, right under the chocolate cover. Okay, that looks good to me. Now I prepared already some baking sheet, and this will probably be too much for this sheet. I expected that, and I will bake maybe a little cake with the leftover batter. Now the oven needs to be preheated to 350 degrees, which is most of the time the right temperature for any cake. Yeah, I think I'll get it all in here. It's not too much. I don't expect it to rise too much since there's no baking powder in here. I don't want to shake it too much since I don't want the air to go out, but I also want it to be nice and even. Alright, so next step is baking this cake. Yes, the cake is ready. It has baked for, I think, 40 to 50 minutes. Unfortunately, I forgot to set the timer, but I noticed in time. However, the original Sacher Torte needs to bake for about 60 to 70 minutes, and it's supposed to be ready when you have, if you press your finger on the cake and it has some resistance, which I can feel here. You can see that the top has crumbled. That's no problem. I would cut that anyway. So it's not completely cool yet, so I would just take it out of the baking pan to let it continue to cool. So while this is cooling, I will prepare some of the things that I need to finish this cake, or better said, this tiny little cakes that I want to make. First of all, I need to take some water, like 125 milliliters, and add sugar and bring this to a boil for about 5 to 6 minutes. Also, I have some apricot jam here that I will warm in the pot so it becomes very fluid. This is what I will spread on the cake a little later. Also, I have some more chocolate on this water pot that's already, oops, that's hot, melted. So these are the things that I'm preparing right now. So here you can see the water and sugar mixture has started to cook, and I will cook it for about 6 minutes now to create some sort of syrup. And in the meantime, the apricot jam got hot and very fluid, and I want to make sure that I don't have any pieces in it, so I will quickly run it through this little sieve just to get the larger parts out. So if I would let the pieces, you know, these thingies here, the fruit pieces in the jam, that would make my chocolate covering more difficult and more uneven. So I'm making sure that this is going to be very smooth. and I put it back into my pot just to keep it warm for a little longer, because the cake has not completely cooled yet. Let's take a look if the cake is cold enough. Yes, it's cold, and I will just put it the other way around, like this. And this crumbled top is what I'm going to carefully remove. Okay. I try to make it as even as possible. And I hope I will manage that. Okay, all right, I think I got it. And let me get a bowl and put this in there. Yes. So here we have the cake, and as I said before, I'm not making the traditional Sacher Torte like the round one that you probably know from the pictures or even have eaten in your life. I want to make some heart-shaped tiny little cakes that are covered and decorated for Valentine's Day. So I have quite a few heart-shaped cookie cutters, and I think I make just different sizes and see how that goes. So here's my first one, and I put it on this thing. Just can't remember the word for it. And now I make a smaller one. I personally like the idea of having something bite size, so you can just put it in your mouth. All right. It probably depends on what you want to do for decoration, what size you use. Let me make another one of these. Okay, so this is what I got out of this cake. There's quite a bit of leftover. I know that there will be someone upstairs very happy about that. Now, since the other side of the cake looks a lot better than where I cut it, I will just turn these to their nice side. And you remember the apricot jam that I heated and put through a sieve? That's what comes next. I will now spread some of that on top of every heart and spread it a little bit. Try to make it nice and even so that the chocolate will cover it very nice and smooth in the end. And the jam cools quite quickly on the cakes, so I have to work fast enough. Here goes the next. I hope you can see this in the video. It's basically almost the same color as the cake, so it's probably not that visible. And traditionally it is this apricot jam that is used. I mean, of course you can do whatever you want. If you prefer to take some strawberry jam or cherry jam or something, knock yourself out. I will just stick to the tradition, but that doesn't mean that you have to too. So maybe you don't even have the apricot jam in your house and want to bake it right away. Just use what you have. And maybe some people are wondering what kind of chocolate I used here. I used a 70% dark chocolate. That's my go-to chocolate for baking. I always use chocolate that has a higher percentage of cocoa in it. I think this heart is my favorite. It looks the best. Very nice. Now, here comes the interesting part. Usually you're not supposed to put chocolate and water together, at least not with melted chocolate, but this is a syrup and it's supposed to work. And let me move this a little further here. And I will slowly add some of that syrup, and I let it cool a little bit. It's not completely hot anymore. And I'm a little bit worried that this might turn into a thick mass. Yeah, that's what happens when you mix chocolate and water. I'm not happy with it. Probably still too hot. Okay, not what I wanted. Nope, that doesn't work. So this got really very firm, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like that, but I'm curious and I will continue to add this sugar. I've never done it like that. I've usually just melted chocolate to cover a cake, but you know, maybe in the end it will work out, and I just have to be a little more patient with the process. And at least it's not one big lump or something, and I can see that it becomes more smooth, so maybe I'm on the right path here. Just have to trust the recipe. But it's definitely not soft enough to cover the little bites with it, so let's see if this will change in a bit. So my goal is to have a really soft, very fluid chocolate to cover my little Sacher Torte or Sacher Cake Bites. Well, it's getting better. Who knows, maybe this is just what it is. It becomes hard at the beginning and then softens. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't give up on this. And the rest. Well, this looks really good, and I think it is soft enough to cover my little bites with it. So let me try it with one of them. I wish it was a little a little more fluid. Oops. Where's my palette knife? Kind of works, but it's not really running down on its own. It needs a little help, and that's not something that makes me happy. So what I'm gonna try is I will make it a little more warm. Maybe that's gonna help. So I put this back on my water pot and put it back on the stove, and that definitely helped. Now let's see how this goes. I really wanted to cover not only on the top but also on the sides, and if this is not runny enough, I will try and add some of the corn syrup that I had in my pantry. Yeah, it's not what I wanted, so maybe if you do this, you just use melted chocolate to be on the safe side. It's not that original. I'm pretty sure this is the right consistency that you need for a big cake where you can easily spread it out. But for this tiny little bites, it's definitely not the best. Okay, I'll add a little bit of corn syrup and see if that's gonna help. I think that's a lot better. So keep it warm if you try it the same way, and if it's not runny enough, just add some more syrup. And then you will get this right. So actually I really want to take it all back. This has turned out to be a really very nice chocolate cover. It's very forgiving, and it is nice and shiny. It looks amazing. So I really had to trust the recipe and also had to keep it warm and add a little more of the syrup. Just these things helped to really make it a successful cover action here, and I really love it. I really love it. So yeah, try it, and as you have seen from my example, don't give up. Just try some tricks if you have any problems. And that's most of the baking and cooking is really experiencing and learning from previous mistakes and thinking about how to fix these, or how I fixed it in the past, what worked, and just continue and try, and don't just give up, because that's how you become a really good cook and a really good baker. All right. That looks really nice. I'm so happy. I will wait now and let that dry completely, and in my last step I will decorate these little Sacher Torte or Sacher Bites.